After quite the delay, the country waking up to a new speaker in the House. Kevin McCarthy getting right down to business, swearing in the 118th Congress following a chaotic week in Washington.
Chaotic indeed, and more than a dozen defeats. It took a historic 15 rounds of voting before McCarthy was able to take control of the gavel days after being called a squatter by members of his own party. This was the longest and most contentious speaker contest in 164 years.
And it ended after midnight with his name being installed above his door. We have team coverage of all the events in Washington, and we start with ABC's congressional correspondent Rachel Scott on Capitol Hill again for us. Rachel, good morning.
Whit, good morning. And this was not an easy victory for Kevin McCarthy. 5 days, 15 ballots. It's the most contentious battle for Speaker since before the Civil War. And it took a chaotic and unexpected turn.
Overnight, a dramatic finish to a historic battle for Speaker of the House. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy finally elected as the next Speaker of the House, taking the gavel from Democrats.
That was easy, huh? I never thought we'd get up here. Hakeem, I've got to warn you. 2 years ago, I got 100% of the vote from my conference.
It was a fight that was bitter until the very end. Fingers pointed, heated words exchanged after Kevin McCarthy failed for the 14th time, blocked by one member from his own party, Matt Gaetz. Tense negotiations played out on the House floor, the cameras catching it all. After already making several key concessions, McCarthy trying to convince Gaetz himself. And when that didn't work, members grew frustrated. At one point, Republican Mike Rogers of Alabama had to be physically pulled back during a heated confrontation with Gaetz. Democrats shouting to stay civil.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to say, wow.
Then a breakthrough. A deal reached, the 15th round of voting stretching past midnight, ending in a standing ovation for the new Speaker of the House.
My responsibility, our responsibility, is to our country.
McCarthy celebrating a new Republican majority, calling for a fresh direction.
Our system is built on checks and balances. It's time for us to be a check and provide some balance to the president's policies.
This was McCarthy's first major test with that razor-thin majority. He had to make several key concessions to try to win over those Republican conservative holdouts, including allowing changes to the House rules so that a single lawmaker could try to force out the Speaker of the House. We asked Congressman Matt Gaetz why he changed his vote. He said in the end he didn't really have anything left to ask for, underscoring that conservatives got just what they wanted: more leverage with.
And Rachel, on that note, we saw McCarthy thank former President Trump for his efforts to win over some of those Republican holdouts. What does that say about Trump's influence in the party still?
Yeah, McCarthy told us after he won the Speaker's gavel that former President Donald Trump's influence cannot be doubted in this battle. So take a look at these striking images. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor holding up her cell phone, the caller's name reading DT, appearing to be Donald Trump on the line. We know that he was calling those Republican conservative holdouts, and McCarthy giving him big credit for helping him get over the finish line with.
All right, Rachel Scott, we know it's been a long night and a long week for you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. For more now, let's bring in our White House correspondent, Mary Alice Parks. And Mary Alice, good morning. So how is the Biden administration reacting to all of this?
Yeah, the president had called all of this embarrassing. He said the world was watching. Overnight, he did congratulate Kevin McCarthy. He put out a statement saying, I am prepared to work with Republicans when I can. And the voters made clear they expect Republicans to be prepared to work with me as well. But he also added, the American people expect their leaders to govern in a way that puts their needs above all else. And that is what we need to do now. And the White House is clearly worried. They have to assume, given what we've seen the last few days, that Republicans are really going to struggle to even get the most basic bills passed, to pass a budget, to pass a government spending bill, to raise the debt limit to pay for the country's bills. Whit?
So, Mary Alice, what does this mean for Democrats, and how much more difficult does this make Biden's job working with Congress and that slim Republican majority in the House?
Yeah, I mean, you have to assume that they are worried here. They are worried about who to negotiate with, how to negotiate with the House going forward. Will they be able to trust that McCarthy can deliver when he promises? And there's the question of how long McCarthy will last. You know, he was asked last night, will he be Speaker for 2 years? He said 1,000%. But as Rachel mentioned, in order to get this win, he gave up incredible concessions, and he called into question whether or not a small group will be able to immediately call for his removal. So in theory, he is coming into this office as the weakest speaker in decades, and that could make it incredibly hard for this White House to work with him. But I will say it is also possible that Republicans will have to work with Democrats more to get even the basics done. Eva?
Mary Alice Parks for us there at the White House. Thanks, Mary Alice.